Hey everyone, this is Brian Holmes with the Strategic Living Podcast and brianholmes.com. You're listening to my great friend Stephanie O'Brien, and you are about to be moved by purpose.
You can't cry for too long at a time. Like at max, a few hours, you're going to be completely drained, I think. So, it's not like you're giving too much, and the reward is amazing.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
Hey, you are listening to the Moved by Purpose podcast with your host, Stephanie O'Brien, today. Thank you for checking in. I know that you guys are busy and have a lot to do and a lot of podcasts to choose from, and I'm always honored that you have chosen to listen in to me and see what I am up to and what I'm doing. So I'm very honored by that. If you are a regular listener, I'd love if you would pipe in and let me know you're listening. Let me know that you value the episode. That always helps encourage me because I see that you are listening, but I don't know who you are. You're anonymous. So I love it when I get emails or letters saying that you enjoy what you heard. And any questions that you have, any trouble that you're facing, feel free to reach out to me. I am very accessible and love reading the emails and sending an encouraging note back to you. Remember that you're never alone and that there are people that are so willing to help and that there's no embarrassment or shame in being stuck or not knowing what to do. That's what us coaches are here for you, to help. And without any delay, I'd love to introduce today's guest, Kristen Swarchek. She's a transformational powerhouse whose mission is to help high-profile professionals and entrepreneurs exchange their overachieving personalities for true inner alignment so they can avoid burnout, thrive with ease, and become an example of intentional living for others. And without any further delay, let's get right into the interview. Welcome to the show, Kristen. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
And we were chatting a little bit before the official recording of this episode, getting to know you a little bit. And I'm always excited to connect with like-minded people that share very similar passions, serving people that are stuck. But I would love to know a little bit about the background of what led you to start Kristen Swarchek Coaching.
Yeah, it began around 2013. Well, actually even earlier than that. In 2008, my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it was stage 3. So it was a pretty scary situation, one that I've never really been confronted with. And, a situation where you had to learn how to live. My mom had always been the rock in the family, so I had to kind of take that role. And, at a time when I was scared, I also wanted to infuse her with strength and empower her to want to live. So, without even realizing it, the journey began then. And, one of the first things I did when we found out she had cancer was to build her this journal in which she could record all of her thoughts, as she went through treatment and chemo. And it also had all these pictures of her grandchildren and different things that would empower her. So we went through this 5-year struggle together, and eventually she lost her life in 2013, and I was actually with her when this happened. I was holding her hand, and as she crossed over, and prior to this, she could not live. From learning she had cancer, she was pretty paralyzed. She never could really go on from that point. She'd look at the grandchildren and she'd cry, and I think she was just so scared. It paralyzed her. She couldn't really live in the moment at all. And when she passed away, what I feared being the worst day of my life was actually one of the most beautiful moments, and it was certainly a life-defining moment in which I realized that she achieved this state of inner peace. And unfortunately, it was when she had passed, and right at that point when I saw this look come over her face, and it was completely serene and also like beautifully happy looking. I mean, it was just, you can't even explain it, but it was something that I knew that I needed to tap into, and I wanted to do it in this lifetime. So it began my journey to really go inward and to learn how to cope with this horrible loss in such a way that I could feel empowered. And so that's when it began. And then, I was married 10 years at the time, and it was a very toxic relationship with emotional abuse. I had 3 small young children, and I got the courage just from that life-defining moment of losing my mom and knowing that I didn't want to live my life unhappy anymore. So, I went through a divorce, and I hired a divorce coach, which introduced me to the power of coaching. And within 6 months, I was divorced and trying to help everyone cope, But I still realized that I knew I was on this transformational journey, but I had no idea what the steps were or anything like that. I was just doing the best I could to kind of get through it and grow. And that, the researcher in me just became so intrigued that it became my life's work. And I, am now writing about the transformational process, and that's what I love to do. That's why I love to help people wherever they are in life to work with me and have a guide through the process of transforming at the core.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can relate to the power of coaching. And, I had a toxic relationship as well. Now, I never married him. I got out before that happened. But I remember everything in my life seemed to just change. You're almost like one decision away from radically transforming your life.
Yeah.
I mean, that was for me.
So true.
Yeah. I mean, because I was just talking recently to some close friends of mine, and they know my story very, very intimately because they walked through it with me all the way. They saw the before, they saw the after, and they were like, I talk a lot about career and doing your life work and finding your purpose and all these things which are very powerful. But I kind of avoid talking about the relationship I was in before. And they're like, you don't talk about that, but do you realize how much your life did not start radically changing when you decided to start your business? It started when you left your relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what it all started from. Because they're like, you start from when you started your business. And you need to take it back a little bit more. So anyway, I just can relate to that and realize that it was that one decision transformed my life. I mean, it was, I either stay in this relationship and delay fulfilling my purpose and fulfilling and living a fulfilling life, or I let go the unknown, embrace uncertainty, and see what life has to offer. And I'm so glad I did the latter.
Exactly. I mean, it's our thoughts, it's what we decide to believe at any point in time that shapes up the actions that we take. And now that's very clear for me. But, you have to really, something's got to be a catalyst to make you realize that. And I think that's the power in this, and awareness as we peel away the layers of our ego and our false selves. We become more aware, and we are able to be conscious of our situation in life and, see everything as an opportunity where we're feeling trapped and not living our authentic self. We feel like we're stuck and controlled, but we can actually shift it completely by just being open to the opportunities. So it's a pretty amazing journey for sure.
It is. And, I think people get so afraid of change. I get so many people writing in saying how, whatever story it is, since I mainly work with people that are unsatisfied in their work and they have a longing to know what their calling is and to do something fulfilling and meaningful, it's like, I can't stand my job. My health is falling apart. My marriage is falling apart. I barely see my kids. All these things are in shambles. And I know I want something more. I know I want something different, but I have no idea what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't even know what that looks like. And I'm stuck. I'm scared. I'm trapped. And I'm sure you work with clients in that state. Yeah. First, I want to commend the people that reach out and at least acknowledge that situation. Yeah. I think that's a powerful step.
Well, extremely powerful, because you're actually beginning the journey. And, when I did research on spiritual awakenings, which, I feel that I went through, the first stage is really the undoing. And, I think that's why what you were saying earlier about pinpointing when it actually begins, like you want to think of it as like a tightly wound ball of yarn. When did it start? The first piece start opening up and, unrolling. And that's where you begin this journey. And so it's not very obvious at that point in time, but there's a curiosity that develops within us where we realize something's not right in our lives and that we want it to be better. And, some people can be simply there and come to coaching. And then, other people will need a lot more security in their feeling to commit to a coaching relationship, or to get really bad. I mean, sometimes it's a real big, perfect storm in someone's life, that really, it's like our souls are wake up, we're hit over the head with this big situation. And, that's okay too. Sometimes we don't hear those whispers, and we always have the ability to know if we can tap in. And that's why, I'm such a believer in meditation. I'm so grateful that I've been able to embrace meditation and open to it, because it's really when we quiet the mind, when we still all that inner chatter that tells us we're not worthy in some way, that is when we can really hear the answers of our heart and, what we truly need to do for ourselves. And the more we can do that, like I try once or twice a day to just have that quiet time, and you don't need a lot. It can be 5 minutes, but you get such clarity in those moments where you can just quiet the mind.
Right. And I think people have a really hard time doing that. Yeah. And I started using this app called Calm. Yeah. It's a great starting point. And meditation can have, there's some people that get freaked out over meditation because they don't understand it. They think it's some sort of, I don't know. There's some people that really freak out about it. I love that Calm app because it educates you on what it is. It's really just mind exercising. It's like training your mind to focus, to concentrate, to be present. None of those are bad things, So, and I started using that app, and it's so nice to just have a 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute, whatever. Like, I need a break and I need to recenter myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when you're on a deadline for work or whatever. We're always busy with our lives, but it actually helps enhance your productivity so much more by just taking that purposeful pause and really tapping into what your true needs and desires are.
Absolutely. So what is one resource that you have? I know you mentioned, and that's a practice. Meditation is a practice. I'm curious, do you have any, before I go into the resources, but are there any other practices that you do consistently? Well, that's why it's called a practice. But anyway, that help you get through your day or to accomplish your goals, or that have led you to the success you see today?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, I started doing yoga, and it's only been probably a year since I started. And, I was amazed when I first started because I wanted to learn how it really worked. And I kept saying to my friend that does yoga, she actually teaches it, and I would say to her, I'm like, something's really amazing going on here. Like, I have such clarity. And she explained how it's not just an exercise in helping with your posture and all these things. Like, you're really enhancing the flow of the energy within your body. And then I started to research, what else impacts that? And it's the foods that we eat. And I try to follow like a raw food diet and I love coffee, I do, but every once in a while I'll take a few days off completely of coffee, and I'm trying to be conscious of how much I drink, because when I drink the coffee and I eat all the raw foods and limit my sugar and I'm doing the yoga and the meditation, your energy is so enhanced, and I think we raise that vibration. We're just clear. I feel like our minds become a lot more clouded when we're not taking good care of ourselves, and sleep is also really important, and I struggle with that. I still do, because I live such a busy life, and when my kids are in bed, I'm usually working and I get up early and those kinds of things. But I think the more we can be conscious of those choices we make, it really has a big impact on our moods and on our mental, physical well-being.
I completely agree. And it is amazing how many people do not, I don't know, when I started slowing down to do yoga, to pay more attention to what I'm eating, to sleep more consistently, that all gave me so much awareness. Like when I'm feeling stressed or irritable, I mean, I know I'm like, okay, what is causing this? First it's like, it could be a lie I'm believing in, a mindset that I have, or some false belief that I'll have to no longer agree with. That could be it. But sometimes it's like, ate like crap, and that's in your stomach.
Right.
Like,
I know. Just think about like the kids around Halloween time, how their moods are so off, and it's simply from eating all the junk.
Yes.
You can see it happening.
Yeah. And so it is good to be aware. And so what are your suggestions on someone listening to this? They know they need to make a change. We talked a lot about a lot of these things. Now, I've learned for myself that when I say, okay, I'm going to start exercising regularly, eating healthy, getting 8 hours of sleep a night, and meditating every day, I'm setting myself up for failure, because there's too many new habits to try to develop all at once.
It is. Yeah, I mean, that is your ideal to be able to, it's usually if you're not working a full day, you would have that time. But yeah, I think the key is to put them on your calendar and to really think about what your week's going to look like ahead of time, and schedule these things out like you would an important meeting for yourself, because we so often overlook taking care of ourselves, and that can take many different forms. It can be the self-talk that we have with ourselves every day. But the more we can plan for these types of activities that we know we can give back and replenish our souls and our physical and mental health, then I think, we really need to plan those like every other meeting or event in our life. And that way you can see how your day is mapped out. And, if you need to wake up an hour earlier or go to the gym after work, and just make sure you schedule it. I think we will hold ourselves more accountable to do it if we do that. So that's been something that's helped me. And like you said, just to realize that you need your downtime in the day, and maybe you schedule that too, your time to just relax with the family after dinner or whatever it is. But we live a life where there's never enough hours in the day, and therefore we have to kind of schedule these things.
I agree. And it is valuing yourself enough to do it. And I think people are so used to, at least the people I've worked with, they're just so used to giving and giving and giving that they start to feel guilty when they start taking time for themselves and caring for themselves, especially women, I see, with small children.
Yeah, I understand that very well.
Yeah, and there are seasons in life where you got small children and you're working full time, and, there's a lot of things to juggle. I mean, you do have to take care of the little ones' needs. You got to feed them, but you got to take care of yourself as well. So,
to anybody, unless we take care of, it's like the oxygen mask theory, you have to take care of yourself first. You can see that happen when your patience is limited and all these things when you're under stress. So it's important to pay attention. The other piece of advice that I really am embracing in my own life is to listen to ourselves, in the sense that, like, if you have a situation at work where you've had a really bad day, or, you're just really down about something, leaning into the actual emotions associated with it. I think so many of our problems come from our need to stuff our emotions. And isn't it crazy? Like, when you start just leaning into it and letting the emotions flow through you. And I know you have to sometimes, if you're at work, you can't just break down and cry, whatever it is. But when you come home, you can. And, for men, I work with a lot of men that, don't want to let their armor down. But there's ways to release the physical stress in your body. And the quicker we can do that, the more we can get on with our lives in ways that are positive. And it's like the beach ball, submerging it underwater. The more we submerge it, it's going to pop up and it's going to get more destructive the longer we hold it under. And that's what happens when we do that with the emotions in our bodies. So I really encourage my clients and myself. I'm doing it with my children too. Like, if they seem stressed or have a bad day, like, I encourage us to just let it out together, and it's making a big difference. So I think it's a major shift in our thinking, but I've seen the impact of it, and it's pretty easy to make a big change in your life by doing it.
Yeah. Not denying emotions and letting them be felt, and to let them basically flow and run its course.
Yeah.
I mean, within reason.
Yeah.
I mean, people with extreme anger problems usually have a lot of undealt with pent up anger. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Oh yeah. Right.
They have that explosive rage.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when you start, I think people get a little they're like, well, I don't want to be an emotional basket case. Mm-hmm. I don't want to constantly be feeling every feeling I feel, because then I'm just always going to be processing through things, always talking about them, and that's going to get really annoying, and I think that's unproductive. But I find the contrary to be true. Yeah. I think it's so much more unproductive when you're not identifying them. And in the early phases, if you're used to shoving your feelings or denying them, mm-hmm. it does take some time to get used to identifying it, processing through it, letting it go.
Exactly.
The more you do it, the quicker you can process through it, I think. Right. I mean, some feelings are bigger, like grief is a bigger one.
Yeah, sometimes you're caught off guard with some big things, so you're going to have a little bit longer span of dealing with those. But even when you allow yourself to be the basket case, you can't cry for too long at a time. Like, at max, a few hours, you're going to be completely drained, I think. So, it's not like you're giving too much, and the reward is amazing. So I'm not finding the issues. Like, every once in a while, if I've not really dealt with them as much, I will have an hour or two of just not feeling so great. But they really are becoming habit of flowing right through. And I think part of it is we center ourselves. So if you get clear on them while you're processing them, they don't really seem, I think we make them irrational in our head. But if you can center yourself, then you see them for what they really are, and they really don't hold so much weight anymore. And that's part of the processing, where they're just kind of, you let go of them. They're not really stressing you out anymore. So it's probably a 2-part process.
I agree. And someone once said, feelings are indicators, not leaders. Mm-hmm. And that was really eye-opening for me, because I used to live my life led by feelings.
Yeah.
And led by emotions, when really it's just like symptoms in your body, muscle tension or headaches or restless sleep. Those are indicating something that you need to look at and address. And so usually in cases like that, it's usually linked to emotions and not resolving emotions. So.
Yeah. What's been fascinating alongside of that is the button pushing philosophy. So if you're, cut off in traffic, or someone's bothersome towards you at work and just, makes you feel hurt in some way, or whatever it may be, whenever your buttons are pushed, I love to encourage my clients to just examine and observe. What is that saying about you? And it's so fun to do because if you shift it that way, there's always so much to be learned about our values, about our beliefs. And then you have the opportunity with knowing that to make a change. And, in the future, they may not be things that bother you anymore. But again, you're leaning into them and you're just embracing them for what they are and learning from the situation. So it's a conscious choice that we make in those moments. And, life is so much about not what happens to us, but how we react to it. And these are all just examples of us steering the ship of our lives. And we're always in control. We may not feel that way, but it's a simple shift in our thinking that will put us back in control.
And it's a very empowering thought to remind yourself. I mean, you can't control others, but you can control your attitude. You can control how you think about it, what you're going to do with processing it. And it's very empowering because the moment you start, there are some things that are just out of our control. But again, I say we're in control of a lot more than we think. And the moment we delegate that, or we're not taking responsibility or walking in ownership or an empowerment thought, you become a victim.
Yeah.
And everything is, you're living a very powerless life.
Yes.
I lived that way.
Yeah. That's imprisoning yourself in your mind. And someone once explained that to me, like the power of that. And I've seen so many people live from that place and the destructive effects of that, of not being able to let go of the control. And people that are controlling, that's simply what it is. They're very fearful of so many things. And it's, detaching from the outcomes and all these skills that we learn through coaching that allow us to simply be mindful and embrace the moment and enjoy the experience. But, a lot of people just feel the need to have full control over the whole process. And that's a really scary place to be, especially when you're trying to control others, because other people are not meant to be controlled, and it's like a moving target where it's hard enough just to deal with our own lives every day. But when you have that on your plate as well, there's no way you can be living from a good space. So it's just building that awareness why people are doing those things that help them see and move out of it possibly.
If they choose to.
Yes.
And the power of choice.
The power of choice, exactly. And, it's much easier for people to continue the status quo. And so you really have to have that internal motivation, whatever it may come from, to embrace a better life. And that's the thing, the power of choice. Like, no one is stuck in any situation in their life. None. It's all about what are we going to do in that situation to make it the best it can possibly be. And, it takes people a long time. Some people, in this lifetime may never get there. And that's okay. That's a choice that you make as a person. And, it's just the educational piece of it where at least you're educating people on this. And then they have the choice to decide.
It's so powerful. The stuff is so powerful. I'm just so grateful that these bits of truth were presented to me. They did not take root right away, or at least did not come to an outward harvest right away. It took years.
Yeah.
It took years of me hearing pieces of this truth. It took years of wise counsel telling me, you have the power of choice. I'm so grateful for the people, even when I wanted to be a victim, I was holding on to this right to be offended, and totally playing victim. I'm so grateful for the people that would hear me complain and say, well, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
I hated that question, but
yeah.
I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah, I know. And when you start to think back on the people in your life, I'm such a believer in the fact that everyone's in your life for a reason. And even the people, I spent 10 years in a toxic relationship, but there was a grand lesson for me to learn in this lifetime through that. And one that changed my life forever, and for my children to learn, So you can't spend time regretting it. You can't spend time wishing you had done something different. You simply learn from it. And some of our biggest learning opportunities come from the most difficult moments in our lives. And, it certainly changed the course of my life forever. So I'm with you. I'm completely grateful. And it takes time to pull it all together. I think the thing I'm learning to do now, and it's coming more naturally, is to trust my intuition, because we always know, like they actually say, we all have the same intuitive abilities, which I always find interesting, because you hear these people that do this for a living and you think they're so much clearer. The practices that they choose and their ability to get clear. But we all have that within ourselves, and we can always know what the right decision is at any point in time for us. It's just when we're able to free ourselves and get that clarity that we need, whether it's eating better, taking all these practices into our life, that helps us tap into it. So I find that pretty exciting too. Life just seems like such a bigger journey now. Once you align yourself with the spiritual aspect of it, I think that was the biggest part of it, and getting in touch with who you are and your soul. And it's just really beautiful to be looking at life every day as an opportunity rather than, just going through the motions. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in our busy lifestyles, and you go on autopilot. You're just like running the kids around. You're going to work every day. You're not really enjoying or thinking about any of it until you break out of that mold. And that's a big lesson to learn.
It is. And we all learn it through different events, different processes. I mean, working with a coach can help significantly transform your life. Having healthy relationships and people in your life to empower you. I'm very big on the community and the friends that you keep. Mm-hmm. Make sure they're life-giving rather than life-taking.
Yes.
And that's all very, very key. I would not be who I am today without, yes, my spirituality, and then the people that I've been blessed with in my life to not, I call it a return to sender when I send them an invitation to my pity party. They're like, no, not going.
Yeah, right. Isn't that great? I know. And when you start attracting that from this space where you're aligning with yourself, and they say the universe lines up to support you, isn't it true that it really does? I mean, lately I've had some amazing people just literally enter my life from the most strange synchronicity, type of moment. It blows my mind, and I constantly am saying to others how blessed I feel, to just be. But the part of it that you have to recognize is that you're creating that, you're manifesting that by taking care of yourself and putting yourself in the best light that you can, so that you radiate that out, and it does truly come back to you. And
I totally agree. And because, some people kind of get nervous whenever I talk about the importance of having healthy friends in your life, mm-hmm. or healthy support. Yes, there is action that you need to take. But for me, I started focusing on getting myself better. Mm-hmm. And the more I focused on my spiritual and personal and professional development, all of it, mm-hmm. these people just came into my life. Like, I didn't necessarily go on findafriend.com or whatever. I don't even think that's a real website.
Exactly.
I didn't seek out or have to go to find me a friend meetup. Mm-hmm. I just started focusing on where I wanted my life to be and what I wanted it to look like, and the people just happened to be there. Yeah. I mean, that's just...
They just come out of the woodwork.
And then they came into my life.
Crazy. It truly is. It's beautiful. It's quite the journey.
Yeah. And with that, as you develop and as you evolve, there is a little, I call it that lonely phase or lonely stage where you're developing new friendships, but a part of you, the old is shutting off. Mm-hmm. So some of the friendships that were not serving you or that you used to love, but they're no longer going with you as you develop and evolve.
Oh, yeah.
And so like they have a hard time resonating with where you're going. And it's not that they're toxic or bad, but like I find that some of my closest friends I had, like I still love them, but like the relationship is not the same.
Right.
Because
so true. Yeah.
You know?
It is so true.
And there's a little bit of a grieving process of that as well. Cause you know, it's like some dear friends that are beautiful, beautiful people, but like, I just don't relate to you anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
it is such a grieving process and we don't acknowledge that. I think, you know, this all brings in the importance of having a coach because I went through my transformational process alone. Now I have a coach when I finally figured it all out, you know, but,
right.
you know, someone to just guide you and be like, someone to check in with you and say, yeah, that's what happened at this phase. You know, I remember when I started aligning with my truths and my values, I lost my closest friend. And it was devastating. And I felt so alone because at that point, you're not attracting the new people in just yet. And so you're like, okay, here I am trying to make my life better. And now I've lost all my friends. And, you know, it's the coach that helps you to see that, yes, but wait until you see the friends you start attracting. And you know, you believe in the process. And actually, one of the things I learned through my coaching process was, you know, to trust the process.
And we hear that so much.
And you want to. You're like, I don't want to trust the process. Just tell me what it's going to be, you know.
I just want to ride.
Yeah.
I just want to be there. I don't want to journey. I just want to be there.
And we're there. Like, you know, I've been on this journey 2 years. I still have a lot to learn and to grow. And that's the beauty of it. We're always able to learn and we've never arrived. Like in my book, I talk about the I've got this trap. I mean, that's a really dangerous place to be. When you think you've arrived and you've done it all right. And, you know, if you're a perfectionist, I tried to make my spiritual transformation perfect.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of different intricacies that come into play, but you have to trust yourself through it. You know what feels right. And, you know, even when I was losing my friends, I knew that I was standing in my truth. And, you know, if they didn't want to align, it's almost like holding a mirror up to people, I think. And that's where you see some people are ready to make changes, big changes in their life. And then other people are just completely content with, you know, the security they have and just keeping their life the same. And, you know, they may just ride out the rest of their lives in that place of, you know, everything's okay. But that's the difference. When you choose to go on this journey, the potential is unlimited. And I think that is what's so inspiring to know that there's no cap on how far you go and how much you achieve in your life. If you've committed to the journey, you know, you'll soon discover that everything's going to come back to you. That passion's going to enter back in your life. And that's how I help people understand what purpose is. It's that feeling of passion and feeling alive again that so many of us have lost touch with. And that's really amazing gift when you start figuring that out for yourself.
Yeah, I think people lose touch with it because they settle for what's comfortable and they settle for mediocrity. And that's what starts dimming the flame of passion. It's when you get out of your comfort zone where you start igniting that flame again and coming alive. But in my experience, the more I clung to what was comfortable and what was familiar and what I knew, even if it was terrible for me, the more I was dying.
Yeah.
What's one book that changed your life or one person that changed your life?
Or like
a quote that changed your
that
life?
you can share or something like that. Because I basically took my transformational experience and I'm writing a book right now about the steps of a transformation. So it's kind of learning from myself, but then applying it to the bigger audience out there and leveraging, you know, where people are and, you know, wherever they are in the process is okay to kind of jump in and transform yourself. And I usually explain it as, you know, it's not just doing, it's actually at the being level. So you're really going deep and you're discovering who you truly are at your core, your true self, your identity. And a lot of times I find that in our adult years is when we actually discover that. You know, we go on throughout our whole lives living by these values, and we don't really question them so much until we have a need to. And then often we find our values weren't actually ours, and that's how we got off our path. And, you know, and what I love to do is to help people discover, it's a self-discovery process, who they really are at their core, and bring them back to that self and to start transforming from the inside out so that they're living a life of fulfillment and abundance and all those kinds of things. And standing in your truth, you know, is a big part of the process. So it's a strong commitment, because it's not just, you know, losing a few pounds or whatever, you know, some people can do for coaching, but it's really changing who you are. And, you know, people come to me in identity crisis situations, after transitions, or all different types of situations. But that's the point. No matter where they are in the process, we can kind of start with the same steps.
So I could keep talking to you forever, Kristen. It's just so great having a like-minded friend to talk this through with. But I want people to connect with you. You mentioned a book.
Yeah.
What was the title of your book?
My book is called Crashing into Grace, and it's not published officially yet, but those of you that come through my coaching process or connect with me on my blog, sharing a lot of those teachings now ahead of time, and it's actually the process of transformation. So, yeah, you can visit me at www.Kristen, Kristin, Swarchek, SWARCHECK.com. And my email is Kristen@KristenSwarchek.com.
Awesome. I love the title of the book, Crashing into Grace. That's an awesome title.
Yep.
Yeah, so be sure to check out Kristen's website. I will have these for you on the show notes as well. If you're out driving and can't look it up, you know, on your app, you'll be able to see these. It will link right up to her page, and you can connect with her there. All right, it was an honor, Kristen. So great talking to you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too. Bye, everyone. Life is so much about not what happens to us, but how we react to it. And these are all just examples of us steering the ship of our lives. And we're always in control. We may not feel that way, but it's a simple shift in our thinking that will put us back in control.
So there you have it. That was Kristen Swarchek over at KristenSwarchekCoaching.com. And make sure you check her out if you felt like this interview resonated with you. She also has her own show as well, Intentional Living, on Voice America. So if you liked her, make sure you plug in with her and connect over there. And I love the name of her book. Love it, love it, love it. And that will be available soon. That's quite a big project, I know, because I've been talking about my book for how long, and all of these people are producing books, so guess who needs to get on finishing it? Yours truly needs to stop talking about it and get it done. Anyway, if you guys have not, come on over to movedbypurpose.net to get your free ebook, The Freedom from Fear Manifesto, where you learn to kick fear where it hurts, stop letting fear hold you back, steal your dreams, and take all the joy out of your soul and life. It's time to be free from all of that, and this book walks you through how to get that out of the way, and you can walk in full freedom and abundance you are meant to live. If you like this episode, make sure you rate, subscribe, and write a review. And I notice as I talk that I tend to slur my words, and I need to slow down and articulate what I'm saying more consciously, because that can be annoying to the listener. So I am sorry that I have developed a poor habit of talking too fast, faster than my tongue can move. So anyway, I will be being conscious of that for you. And I'll talk to all of you guys next week. Love you.